So then Wolves once again left with egg on their face after another rejection. This time it's QPR boss Michael Beale who has rejected to talk to Wolves after they requested permission to QPR today. Obviously, I'll give you guys my thoughts and the story so far on this head coach search. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and obviously subscribe to the channel if you're new. But yeah, once again, the second manager now to turn down Wolverhampton Wanderers in their search for a new head coach since the sacking of Bruno Lage at the start of this month. And it's becoming a little bit laughable now from a Wolves point of view, and we can't even attract or, convince a head coach who is very new to the managerial game. He's managing in the Championship, no disrespect to QPR. And I don't know where that leaves Wolves now, to be completely honest. Obviously, our first target of Julian Lopetegui left or sacked from Sevilla. Obviously, for his own personal reasons, turned down the job, which is fair enough. Now, there have been reports and rumours of a manager since. Nuno, which we spoke about. Pedro Martins, which we've discussed. The latest one this week was Peter Bosz, who we'll talk about a little bit more shortly. But Michael Beale's name really accelerated over the last sort of 24 to 48 hours. To be fair, there were whispers of it over the weekend. Someone had messaged me right at the start of the weekend. It was Saturday morning, talking about Michael Beale. Somebody that I didn't have a great amount of knowledge on. But in the bookies odds, just kept coming throughout the day on Saturday, shorter and shorter. So I think there was definitely whispers in and around there. And then obviously it became pretty common knowledge over the last 48 hours that he all of a sudden became Wolves' #1 target. Now, we knew it was always going to be difficult because QPR were playing last night, which was Wednesday night, so we knew things would accelerate today, as in Thursday. QPR picked up a very convincing 3-0 win yesterday. It was against 10 men, but that did send them top of the Championship. And Michael Beale had his post-match press conferences, and it was very, I think, safe. I think he's been very respectful to QPR. He said he had a job to do there and so on, but he's always honest. He said that he wants to, every player and every coach wants to manage in the Premier League, but he thought maybe he could do that with QPR. But I thought that was quite safe answers from him, really. But we had the news today that Wolves requested permission to speak to him through QPR, doing it the proper way. But Michael Beale has obviously had to think of it overnight and rejected the request to talk to Wolves. Now, obviously, people are very frustrated at this, which I completely understand. So Wolves, he hasn't actually even spoke to Wolves. So the chances of him getting the job were very, very high. But I think the weird thing with this is that surely Wolves would have sounded out the interest before going completely public with this, and all the journalists knowing, surely they would have sounded it out. Now, maybe if QPR dropped points last night, it could have been a different story, but because they got that quite convincing win and were top of the league, maybe, Michael Beale is, looking up with QPR rather than anybody else. So it's left, Wolves looking a little bit silly now because, they've put all their eggs in the Lopetegui basket. That failed. It looked like and sounded like they didn't have a plan B. The guy that they found is Michael Beale, who they've now looked at, and he says, no, I don't even want to talk to you. That makes Wolves look really, really daft. And now to approach any other manager, they're going to know that they're at least the third choice for Wolverhampton Wanderers, which is a little bit of a concern in regards to the quality of manager that Wolves will be able to bring in. Beale did address it, to be fair. Now, this is the one thing, and there was a lot of people umming and ahhing about Michael Beale. Obviously, I would have loved to have done a video of him if he got the job, but he's an outstanding coach. Everybody's worked with has sung his praises, and he's extremely honest. And that's one of the things, there's a lot of videos and podcasts and interviews with him, which I was watching, and I was just drawn in. I couldn't stop listening to him. And he did an interview this afternoon with QPR, just to basically straight away clear the air so QPR fans knew where his head was. And it's the honesty and fresh air like that, which we have not had at Wolverhampton Wanderers for a number of years. Just communication. Imagine a football club or Wolverhampton Wanderers, hearing about something, and then the person in question addressing it and answering all your questions straight away. Instead of having all this speculation online, like we've got with Wolves now, it makes no sense. Or imagine if Bruno Lage got sacked, and 3, 4, 5 hours later, Scott Sellers or Jeff Shee did an interview explaining the situation. I know it doesn't happen all the time. I know chairmen don't have to do that. But it just puts fans' minds at rest. And that's exactly what Michael Beale said today. And he even addressed Wolves in this interview with QPR and said, Wolves are a fantastic football club, historic football club. It was a real privilege to be asked to go and speak to them, but I didn't think it was the right moment. He then added, integrity is a big thing for me, and loyalty. And to be fair to him, he was honest. Loyalty, it doesn't come, it's very hard to find sometimes in football. And all the best to him for the rest of the season and Queen's Park Rangers. Now, Wolves, obviously, Peter Bosz was a name that I mentioned earlier on. He's the latest name to also be linked with the job. Now, this was even before the Michael Beale stuff accelerated. The Telegraph said the other day that he had been interviewed by Wolves. Wolves held the Wolves hierarchy, said he was a strong contender because he impressed in his talks. Now, if you look at his CV, it's quite impressive. The teams that he's managed Borussia Dortmund, Ajax, Lyon most recently. But a lot of people that watch European football do not rate this guy whatsoever and think Wolves would be in real trouble if Peter Bosz was to become the new head coach of Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, this is because he has an attacking style of play, which Wolves fans will like the sound of, but defensively, he's very, very poor as a coach. It'll be interesting to see if Wolves now go back into him. It's been reported that Wolves have basically got 2 shortlists, one with the British managers, which Michael Beale was top of, and one with sort of a foreign manager list, which will be very intriguing to see who's on there. Now, it leaves Wolves in a strange situation. Do we now hold on and wait until the World Cup to give us even more breathing space? Because it was been reported over the last week that Wolves wanted to get someone in the dugout before the game against Leicester. I think if we won it against Crystal Palace on Tuesday, it would have been absolutely fine to wait a little bit longer. But Wolves cannot afford now to go into the last 3 or 4 games before the World Cup, struggle to pick up any points because you're in a really, really difficult position. It makes the game against Leicester a 6-pointer and a match that Wolves have to win to take any pressure off the club whatsoever. But the way that the club have dealt with this, Scott Sellers and Jeff Shee in particular, it's really, really poor. Now, if you're going to cock things up, if you're going to slip up, just make sure it doesn't come out to the press. I'm sure they've sounded out 6, 7, 8 different managers and probably interviewed and spoke to managers that we don't even know about. But this stuff here that we know about, the fact that Michael Beale has rejected to speak to rejected the chance to speak to Wolves, the chance that Lopetegui, Wolves flew out there and he rejected us as well. It just makes Fosun look absolutely ridiculous. And now going on to a new manager who, like I said earlier, knows that he's not going to have been the first choice manager. For me, it makes, you go from top quality manager or quality manager in Lopetegui, Beale, who is obviously a clearly very talented coach, but probably not got the experience. And now you're going to have to go down to the tier below that to try and almost convince someone to take this job. I don't know where Wolves go from here. I think Walt Fosun have left him in a particular situation now. When Bruno Lage was going or gone, like I've said before, I think it was the right time for him to go. They should have had a plan in place. They should have had a guy basically lined up, ready to take charge pretty much straight away. And that's what they haven't got. Who's out there right now? I don't know. Nuno's the favourite again with the bookies, but I don't think he'll be coming. You've got Pedro Martins. Do Wolves revisit that? I really don't know where Wolves go from here. But guys, let me know your thoughts. Of course, when we get updates, I'll let you know. But Michael Beale, the latest manager, to reject talks with Wolverhampton Wanderers. As always, guys, I'll catch you all very, very soon.